At first, when we were playing, it was great because, okay, 5 or 6 boys, they're not out getting into trouble. I mean, what wrong can come from just sitting around a table playing a game? And it didn't seem to be anything nefarious. But the way that we wanted to play it all the time, and then when they started to see some of the books, and of course, from an evangelical standpoint, when they'd see the books and they would see demons or devils on them, or else they would find out that you weren't playing only a Christian game, and that you were the Greek religion, the Roman religion, every prehistoric or every pre-gunpowder religion was there, as well as fantasy religions, then that became problematic.
Nice to meet you, Robert. How's it going?
Good to meet you. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Yeah. Just finished teaching, so ready to go.
What do you teach usually?
I teach Canadian history, so I had a grad level class today. So yeah.
And do your students know of your interest in Dungeons and Dragons?
They didn't until the CNN thing came, and then I was busted. So now when I'm teaching classes, yeah, it's there'll be students coming up all the time, and I can tell right away because they're trying to find an embarrassing way to ask me about gaming without just saying it. So yeah, they seem to know now.
Now, Priscilla, I don't think you know much about what Dungeons and Dragons is.
I literally am starting fresh from scratch. So if you could just also tell me, because I know you've been playing, I think, for 35 years.
38 years.
But and then I'm looking, and also your love of,
which you have to understand is normally people play for like 12 hours. So 30.
I don't even so I mean, you're not getting any sleep, but how did this fascination come about? And is there a relationship between your deep love of history, specifically Canadian history, obviously? How did you start doing this? Why did you start doing this? And what is it that you do?
Right. Yeah, I suppose as a kid, I always classify a lot of little boys when they're playing. Some like to play with toy soldiers, and some like to play with cars. And I like to play with toy soldiers. The history thing was always there right from the word go. As a kid, I always had a love for that type of stuff, and the books that I was reading was all historical. And then, of course, the first time I came across Tolkien when I was a kid, that had a massive impact on me. But I suppose I was always a bit drawn towards storytelling, creativity, and that was the kind of role that I played with my friends, probably right from the word go. And so it kind of developed. It all kind of rolled forward from there.
But now Dungeons and Dragons is a role-playing game. You each a different character, and then you roll dice to decide what direction your character is going to play. What happens now. A lot of times, like World of Warcraft has sort of taken the dice out of that as a game, but it's sort of the same idea. So how would you characterize the game? How would you describe the game? Because you're playing the old-fashioned way, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of described it well there. I mean, obviously, when people don't know about the game, kind of like Priscilla, my answer would probably be it's an adult fantasy role-playing game. Now, as soon as you say that, you got to be careful because people's minds go in all kinds of naughty directions. So there's no costumes involved or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was an important development in the as board games were developing. I mean, we all played, the Parker Brothers board games, and it was just by the early 1970s they took it in a new direction, Priscilla, so that rather than playing Monopoly and being, in a way, you are a character when you play Monopoly. You're one of the people, you're trying to buy businesses, you're trying to negotiate. It's kind of taking that aspect and taking the rules of gaming and just pushing them away. And all of a sudden, they start to disappear into the ethereal. And all of a sudden, it's very exciting when you first do it because you can realize how much more that you could do. When you're playing games that are bound by rules, you always want to do more. You always say, can I do this? Can I buy this off you? Can I trade this? And in this way, it's kind of taking that creativity, imagination, freedom aspect and just kind of taking the rules off. So you would create a person. You would have your own persona, much like an avatar in today's technological world. And you would basically bring that into the world that I've created. And so you would have everything from your age, your gender, your race, your class, your profession, your background story you develop. So that's where the imagination comes in, where you develop all of that within the confines of the game. And then the actual game itself, when you sat down at the table to play, you are that person. For all intents and purposes, you are that person. Other people are playing their characters, and I kind of control the setting. So I'm like the referee, I'm like the storyteller. I'm creating the situations and telling you about the situations, and then you're responding to them. So one of the common questions that I'd be asking you is, what do you want to do? So here's a situation. You're in a tavern. This is what you see. This is what you smell. This is what you can hear. This is the experience you're having. What do you want to do? And then you just start saying what you want to do, and the dice come in for any action that you want to take. That you can't just say I want to do that, and there's any type of chance, you would then roll dice to determine your success. So the dice play a very important role. But getting back to Jesse's question, yes, I'm definitely playing in the old-fashioned way where people are around the table. Other than, of course, the technological aspect, now I have people playing from all over the world online. And so that has changed a lot too.
Was it on how many?
Go ahead, Priscilla. What were you going to say?
Doing it on Zoom, but even before that, I have a question, because is it relegated to? But it's not. It's fantasy world, or it's not like. So I create a character, but what are the parameters or the boundaries of the world? Like, is it in a different time? You said Tolkien. Are we going way back, or is it like an alternate universe, or am I walking into a tavern in London, now, or when the series of Jack the Ripper was in there? I mean, I'm trying to understand the guardrails.
Yeah. So as far as the genre goes, it's definitely fantasy. So it's definitely Tolkien. So the way I describe it is, I have created a world modeled on our own historical world. So that's where the historian aspect comes in. So it's an altered version of our maps, and of course, maps prior to the 18th century were all guesswork anyway. So you have a world, and into that world, I've got every pre-gunpowder society that exists in our world. So when you were creating a character, you could be Roman, you can be Greek, you can be Babylonian, Sumerian, First Nations, Maori, any pre-gunpowder society that exists historically in our world, and again, pre-gunpowder. But you're absolutely right. It's also an alternative time frame. So Rome exists, but you got to push our history out. So while you can talk about Roman culture, Roman dress, Roman hairstyles, you can't talk about any historical event that actually happened because you're on an alternate historical timeline. So they all exist, and then also you've got all of the fantasy aspects. So the elves exist, dwarves exist, gnomes, hobbits, dragons. So it's a fantasy world and meshed with the historical world on its own alternative historical timeline.
So how many dice are you using in the game?
How many dice? Well, there's hundreds of dice at the table, but at any one time, I mean, you've got everything from a 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 20, 30-sided dice plus percentile dice.
Now, how do I roll that on Zoom?
Right. So if you were going to play on Zoom from where you were, I would tell you, okay, you need access to Zoom. That's the first thing. But then you need a camera that you can put down on something that you're going to roll in. So whether it's a Tupperware container, so you need a separate camera that you can put down onto that. Mm-hmm. And then other than that, a headphone would probably make it better for hearing and everything that way. And other than that, that's all you need. And a set of dice. One set of dice.
Now, is there a Bible that I look at before I can come to play that you've written that must, after 38 years, must be pretty thick?
No, and that's the thing. A lot of what's gone on for my game, the guys are now getting me to get a bunch of it down, and we have a massive website with like reams and reams of information. But for the most part, see, I started playing official Dungeons and Dragons, I guess you would have called it, in about 1982, and that would be 7 or 8 years after the game was first invented. But I didn't have all the books when I first started playing. So I was about 14 years old, and a friend, I was in a very small rural town, and a friend from the city brought out a few of the books for me, and we played one evening, and that was my introduction to it, and I got a taste of what the possibilities were as far as imagination and creativity. And so then from there, because I didn't have the necessary rule books, I just began to fill it in, much as I'd always done in my head. And so I developed my own, so almost from the word go, I was developing my own rule system, my own world, very much my own game. And that's why when people will talk about, oh, you're playing Dungeons and Dragons since 1982, what version are you playing? And it's like, well, I'm playing what the gaming world would call homebrew, right? So it's very much my own system, which is what Dungeons and Dragons was supposed to be when it started, right? All the rules are just guidelines. And so from there, you're able to do what you think. So I have a very, very developed system, and there is lots of stuff I could give you, but it wouldn't just be one rule book that I would point you to, however.
Do you have maps? Do the other players see your maps?
Absolutely. Yeah. The entire world is mapped out. That's a continuing process as better map software comes out. And I mean, I've got about 60 people that are playing the game right now from various places, mostly in Canada, some in the States, some in Britain. And so various people, the people that are good at working maps and cartography programs, they're gradually mapping out the entire world in professional mapping programs. So that's always a project that's on the go. But yes, absolutely maps.
Just to go back for a minute, when you started doing this, I mean, you're in a small town. I heard there's some lore that you were so obsessed with it that in your town you were being accused of like satanic worship or doing something really weird. Is that true?
Yeah. Yes. And that experience wouldn't be only akin to me. That's a fairly common experience. It's actually got a name at the time. It was called the Satanic Panic. Was actually what it was referred to. And so what happened was the game came out, as I say, in the 70s, and in the early 80s there was a big case where a university student in the States went missing. And they hired a private investigator to find out what had happened to him. He played the game, and so the assumption was that because as soon as this game started, as soon as people don't understand things, they start to panic, they start to worry, they start to get paranoid. And so there was panic about it because all they knew is that boys like myself were sitting down and playing this game, and it wasn't like you could walk by and understand what we were doing. And we just wanted to play it so much. Now, the truth was we wanted to play it so much because it was a fantastic game and it just blew the doors off of anything else that you could ever compare it to. But from a parental standpoint, when they didn't know what it was and what you were doing, and also by the early 80s, you've got a fundamental conservative shift going on. You got the rise of evangelicalism, right? You're going into Thatcher, Reagan, et cetera. And so in that, my little community of 300 people was quite an evangelical town. And so at first, when we were playing it, it was great because, okay, 5 or 6 boys, they're not out getting into trouble. I mean, what wrong can come from just sitting around a table playing a game? And it didn't seem to be anything nefarious. But the way that we wanted to play it all the time, and then when they started to see some of the books, and of course, from an evangelical standpoint, when they'd see the books and they would see demons or devils on them, or else they would find out that you weren't playing only a Christian game, and that you were the Greek religion, the Roman religion, every prehistoric or every pre-gunpowder religion was there, as well as fantasy religions, then that became problematic. So then there was a movie came out, and it was about 1981 or 1982, and a young Tom Hanks stars in a movie called Mazes and Monsters, obviously based on Dungeons and Dragons. And in the movie, he has mental health issues. And he ends up playing the game and he can't separate reality from fantasy, that whole argument. And so when that came out, now in my town, I began to go under a great deal of scrutiny. The churches, they were praying for us in the churches. One of the families of one of the boys who played staged an intervention. It wouldn't have been called an intervention at the time because I don't even think there were interventions, but they'd staged an intervention and tried to fit, but they weren't really interested in figuring out what the game was. They were more interested in trying to find a way for us to stop it. So I ended up writing a letter to the local newspaper, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, it was not a pleasant experience, and it made my last years in high school less pleasant than they had to be.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, I mean, that's like, it seems, but it says so much about the world, because what we're trying to do is, first of all, what is that joy of being like a young child? Because the joy in play, right, in role playing, little kids do that naturally. That's what we do, and we beat that out of ourselves. We don't get to do it. Although Jesse's pretty good. He lets the folks at our company kind of have fun. But a lot of, we don't get to do that. And it's so fascinating that it's like you want to control people's minds, which ultimately we can't, right? People will find a way, hopefully, to have an imagination and to experience, the full breadth of what that imagination can bring to us. Sorry, Jesse, what were you going to say?
Were your parents supportive?
Yes, yeah. My parents were not necessarily part of the same evangelical community, and I think they had enough faith in me and seeing me grow up and realizing my love for imagination and creativity and writing and drawing and all of those things. I think they could tell that there wasn't anything nefarious, and that I wasn't a communist, devil worshipping cult leader that I was being accused of being. So yeah, they were. I mean, I can't say that they necessarily understood at the time exactly what was going on, but they had enough faith in me that they didn't that they supported me instead. Yeah.
The first 20 years, was it the same few people?
No, it was about 5 when I was in my little town, and then of course I graduated and went to do my undergrad in the city, in the neighboring city. And so at that point, the game expanded largely because, of course, you don't ever have any more time than you do when you're an undergrad student for that type of thing. So the game expanded massively during those 4 years. And then when I entered grad school, you'd have more people expanding there. When I finished my MA and I went to do my PhD in a different city, the game kept expanding there. And then I ran into that issue of, how do I keep it going? Because in a way, I always knew that I had something here that the guys loved playing. And the interesting thing was, even as computer games come up, you mentioned World of Warcraft, even as all of that development was going on the side, I was able to keep the game and keep them wanting to play that game more than they wanted to play other games. But then I had to have it so that they wanted to play it enough that they'd be willing to travel to play it. Because of course, before the internet, that's what they had to do. And that ended up working out. People were driving. I mean, I was now in a city 9 hours away from where I started, and I'd have people driving in to play and then turn around and drive home again. Now, so yeah, that ended up working, but the group did expand and change over the years as I went through my life.
I mean, have some people stayed from the very beginning?
Yes. Yeah, there. I mean, as far as the first 4 in the small town, there aren't any of those that are playing at present. But like 3 years from when I started playing the game, there are tons and tons of the old vets, they're called now, that have been playing for like probably 35 years.
And is there continuity with, is everything sort of chronologically moving forward? Yeah. And that's one question. The other question I have is, over these many years, have you seen what people are bringing in to the world that are different? So a feminist coming in now, or a social justice activist coming back in and saying, we want to do things differently. Like, how have the role playing changed in this alternate world? That makes sense.
Yes. No, I can't remember what your first question was again. What was your first question?
Just the chronological, so.
Yeah. So the game, it is a story. It's ultimately a great big story. And so we passed through about 600 years of history in the game, and so all that's chronicled. There's a history of the world written. Every time we play a session, somebody writes a first-hand diary account of what happens. So every session, there's a multiple page report produced. But so yes, it's definitely chronological, and the world goes forward that way. And of course, so now those people who've been playing for generations, I think people are like maybe 15 generations into their family line. So they're developing, they're getting married, they're having children, they're keeping track of their entire dynasty. So all of that's happening. As far as people coming into the game and bringing creativity, absolutely. And in a way that I probably wouldn't want to admit to the players, that's such an important aspect for the creative process, because I basically got about 60 minds that are contributing constantly to what's happening. And so everybody brings something different to the game. So whether it's their own character development, or some people are interested in philosophy, and I've got all kinds of academics and former deputy politicians, and there's all kinds of good minds, powerful minds that are in the game, and creative minds. And so through me, they're developing content for this entire world. And I mean, first, when you play something, one of the interesting things about this game is that it hasn't only been going that long, but it's been going that long consistently. And so, I mean, I should be knocking on wood, but as of now, there hasn't been a time when we've gone more than a couple weeks without a session. So over those 38 years so far, you're probably talking about 1 to 2 sessions a week. And each one of those sessions is lasting about 4 to 5 to 6 hours. And so with that many hours getting poured in to a pursuit, not surprisingly, you should, at the end of it, have something that is impressive. And so those people coming in with their various agendas, their various interests, that's the thing. Because it's an entire world, they're able to come in and do so much creative development on their own the way they want to do it.
You know, you've known these people for 40 years, since you were 20 or even younger,
15.
17, you know, so you've grown up with them. You know, is it do you talk with them outside of the game, or is it just all contained within the game? And how well do you know them? Are these your friends for life?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I suppose because it's really all about friendship for me, and I don't know where it comes from. I'm sure a psychologist could dig it out of me, but for some reason I've been obsessed with friendship and not losing friends over time. Even as a kid, I just remember hating. I wanted to be everybody's best friend and not lose anybody, as you and I. And I find males in particular, just I guess I can speak more to that experience. I don't find that we are good at maintaining friendships, right? Over the time, people move, people get married, people have families, people get divorced. All these things come along, and it's like the friendships can't last because you don't have that plank that keeps it together. And so I realized early on that if I could always provide a plank for that friendship, i.e. the game, and it was a plank that they wanted to come to and they wanted to maintain, that I wouldn't lose people over time. And it's largely worked out that way. So getting back to your question, yeah, I would say in a way, anybody who plays, because they're about to, if they're going to play for a long period of time, and they're going to create a character and they're going to enter a world that exists inside my head, in a way, I'm going to form a very close bond to them over time, because I'm also seeing stuff that they're doing at the table. If you're watching closely, I mean, there's a big psychological thing that's happening when you're role playing, right? So yeah, I would say that the friendship aspect is key, and that I would hope that I have very close friendships with all the people who play. I think it's almost impossible. It would be very, very difficult for me not to have that type of relationship with them. And that isn't even talking about all the relationships that are also going to be generated from the grouping of the game.
Have you found that, you know, I mean, the way you're talking is really interesting when you think about also just male friendships. You talked about that, because I think what I'm hearing is there aren't not as many women that play. Is that correct? Or
it's always difficult. I mean, it's and I'm generalizing here, but it's overwhelmingly a male hobby, right? Just like I suppose video gaming is the same. And so it's always been difficult to get women to play. I suppose that's based on my own friendships and who I'm friends with and who wants to play. But it's so important to have female voices. So there are women who play, but I'd say there may be 20% of the grouping that plays, but it is so critical to get female voices, because even men role-playing women, you can absolutely do it, and some are going to be better than others, but getting that perspective is, if you want to create a full world, then it's essential.
So do you feel like, and just to add on to my question is it because it allows sort of you to let people's inhibitions come free? You know, if you're under the guise of your avatar, you know, or your character, you might be able to express things in a way. And then I'm starting to think of like the educational potential with something like that, or you're getting people with Asperger's or autism, or how can that be applied, or is it ever used as a model for, you know, doing real interesting kind of human development, mental development work? Does that ever?
Yeah, and it's interesting to when I think back to how my community originally reacted to the game, and then I mean, there's been such a popular cultural shift in the way the game's viewed. You know, the fact that I would never have done this. I wouldn't have talked about it. I wouldn't have told anybody I played. I would have kept it all quiet. Going to now, where schools are now using it for that exact purposes. So schools are now using it to deal with social skills among children, people with mental health issues or certain conditions, because it allows a place, in a way, it's almost a safe place to go outside of your character, to say things you wouldn't say, to try things you wouldn't ordinarily try. And so I'm seeing that all the time as far as an experiment in socialization, because you're under the so-called guise of role playing. You can go in there and do things or say things to each other that perhaps need to be said in game and out of game, and the game allows you to do that. So absolutely.
Have you had funerals in the game and lost people in real life that you lost in the game?
So you're saying, have we had players who have passed away?
Passed or just stopped playing, and how do you do that? How do you deal with that in the game?
Yeah. So so death is very real in the game. So I always tried to make it like a video, or not like a video game. So there's no reset button. So if you die, you're basically done and you're out of the game. And so that just gives kind of a consequence to death that makes it feel more real, creates fear, panic, that kind of thing. But you're able to play your children. So so all of a sudden, I mean, that's what I mean about people playing 14 generations into their character. So people die in the game all the time, and that's an interesting thing, because at times people have been playing the character and putting hours and hours into that character, possibly over 10 years, 15 years. And then it's almost like doing a painting for 15 years and somebody walks along and puts their foot through it. So people wonder, wow, you really got upset when your character died. Why are you so upset? It's just a game. But of course, that's part of the reason why. As far as people quitting, they've never really outright quit. I mean, people drift away. And because every time we play, obviously everybody isn't there. You've got certain groups going depending on where people are in the game dynamic. And as far as people dying, actual characters dying, that has happened not often, thank God. Again, knock on wood. But I'm sure that's going to happen more and more. And as to I have thought of how do you deal with that, right? Actual people dying in real life, and fortunately, we haven't had to deal with that too much yet.
If you passed on, would you give the dungeon master role to somebody else?
Again, that's so hard for you to even contemplate. I assume because the collection is so massive, and it's so, I mean, because so much of the game exists inside my head, and it's been this creative process and this creative experiment, and because I have the type of personality that I have, yes, I'm sure people could come along and take on my role. Would they want to? Will that end up happening? I don't know, and I'm not sure that I don't assume I will ever know. But yeah, who knows what will happen there. Hopefully I've got a little time left.
How much of your waking life, are you thinking about the game? What I mean? How much of does it occupy your mind? And do you live in that world? And also, what is the role of the dungeon master? What is your role?
Yeah. Well, as I say, my role is in a way the storyteller. So I am the setting. So if you and Jesse had characters in the game and you were sitting down at the table, you guys would control every aspect of your character. I would control, or I would play everything else. So if you talk to somebody in a tavern, I'm that person. If it's a man, woman, if you kick a dog when you walk outside of the tavern, I'm the dog. If you fight a dragon, I'm the dragon, right? So I'm just kind of telling the story, telling you what you're seeing as you go along.
Just take us through what it would be like if we're just sitting down to start the game. How do you start the game, and just what happens?
Okay, so the first thing that I would do, I would sit you down, and you'd be at the big table. You would have your dice. I would have hand painted miniatures to represent you both. The entire table is out, and it's all built with terrain and setting. So if you were in a tavern that you guys were meeting up, I would actually probably have the tavern on the table. I would have it populated, so you'd actually see a full-scale model of the tavern. You would see the two of you sitting there. The camera would be on that. And if I've caught you up to that moment in time when you're coming together to meet, I would probably give you a quick description of what you could see around you. Once I was done that, and you were acclimatized to where you were, I would
it would say, well, there's a beer keg and a table and it's a chandelier here.
Yeah, and you would also see it just because when you first start playing, or when a lot of people play, they don't use figurines and they don't use terrain. But I've been playing for so long that I have an incredibly developed system that way. So you would see much of what, so I wouldn't have to describe a lot of it because you would actually see it. But you could ask me, that guy over there, is he making eye contact with me? Is he saying anything? So you can also ask me any questions, and I would answer those questions. Once that description thing was done, I would then basically say, what do you want to do? Right? And then, so if you guys were going to have a conversation to decide, because you both heard that there was a dragon in the hills, and the two of you thought that you're a warrior, Jesse, and you're a wizard. I am.
You know.
And so you would perhaps think, okay, we're going to go slay this dragon. And so I'd say, but it would be on to you. I'd say, okay, what do you want to do? So the whole planning of, what do we need? Do we need any other help? Do we need any other people? Where are we going to travel? How are we going to get there? Are we going on foot? Are we going to go on horse? How far do we have to go? Do we have a map? How are we going to fight this dragon? All that would be discussed, prepared, planned, and then you'd actually head out. Then the scenery would change. And then I'd show you the scenery of you traveling towards the dragon's lair, right? If anything happened on that trip, that could be happening. And then it would just keep going like that. And then you'd come to the dragon's lair. I would put out the dragon's lair, right? The dragon, etc. And every step of the way, I would keep coming back to say, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And that's where you could do whatever you wanted to do. You could turn around and you could kill Priscilla.
I was just going to
I'm not going to fight the dragon.
I was literally just going to say, so do people like kill each other in the game?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Because that's what makes it so different from other games and even video games, right? Now, video games have kind of gone that way with World of Warcraft, and in a way you can go wherever you want to go. You don't have to follow just one plot line, because that's what made the game so interesting, that you're on the plot line and you may say, you know what, I don't want to fight the dragon, let's go, let's split. And of course, for me, okay, now I've got to adjust. Okay, not fighting the dragon. Any preparation I did there, you guys have decided you don't want to fight the dragon, and now I got to be ready for wherever you're going to go. So the world is like that. So I adapt on the spot. So I don't know what you guys are going to do. So I have to be ready to react with what you're seeing, what's happening, where's the storyline going, often with no preparation, right? And that's kind of the fun thing, because at times it almost feels like I'm exploring the world inside my head at the same time that it's coming out on the table.
What do you think you've learned from it in 38 years? Like, because this has obviously been a very meaningful thing. So what did you take from it? Like, did you use these skills, in other areas? Did you use these skills to, do you use what you've learned there to teach? Do you, what have you taken from it?
Yeah. And again, that's me trying to self-evaluate. So I can try. I suppose it has made me more patient. Just because, and now it's even harder to communicate via Zoom at times when you can't see body language all the time and what people are saying. And so I suppose it's taught me patience, and I'm not a particularly patient person. So I certainly don't succeed all the time, but it's taught me that. Again, it's reinforced lessons of friendship and the importance of friendship and the importance of needing something to keep people together. Saying that we're friends over time, that's not going to do it. There has to be something there that's going to cause you to get on the plane and fly to see me. So it certainly taught me that. As far as my own professional work goes, I'm a historian. I'm a history professor. As far as which ones influenced the other more, because obviously the history aspect plays a massive role in my creation and what I'm creating, and my knowledge of cultures and worlds and religions and philosophies. I can bring all of that in. But I suppose that it's made me a better lecturer, I would hope, when I'm standing talking to students. And ultimately, at the end of the day, when I'm teaching history, even though I want you to question everything and analyze everything, I have to start by telling you a big story. And I need you to buy into the story, and I need you to engage with the story. So I suppose those would be a few of the quick things off the top of my head that it's taught me. But I mean, it's also been my comfort place, right? When things are bad, when you go through hard times in life, I can go down to that world and I can throw myself into it. I mean, I think Priscilla asked how many hours a day do I'm probably working on it in some way 3 or 4 hours a day when I'm just because I'm not just going to sit. If I'm going to sit, I may as well be doing something. So whether I'm painting, whether I'm writing, whether I'm creating, it's really become my creative outlet. And so the history thing, the professional thing is there, but this game, that's my escape.
How is the public, now that you, like you said, we saw you on CNN, I mean, has that changed, the sort of, and has the game changed and the kind of the views around, not the game, but people's perception, and do we need it now more than ever, where, are people coming to it now more and bringing more sense of an urgency to the game? Are you noticing? Just any thoughts on that?
I don't think there's any real sense of urgency, and I don't think we necessarily need it. But I think there's definitely been a cultural shift, right? I mean, you just look at whether it's Stranger Things, whether it's the genre, the Game of Thrones, Big Bang Theory. So that whole phrase that people use, that what was nerdy is now cool, that certainly has opened people's attitudes towards it, and just gaming itself. People, you'll now see, guys in the gym lifting weights talking about playing Settlers of Catan, rather than other stuff. So there's definitely been a change in culture, and as far as the way that's viewed. For me, a lot of what's happening in this world is that people are playing for people to watch. Right? And it's a concept that I have difficulty with, because when I play that game and people are coming in and they're sitting around the table and they're role playing, that's not a public, that's not something public for me. That's not something that I'm sure most of them want everybody to see. But in the world of video games, everyone goes on Twitch and they watch people playing video games for hours. Now, I can't pretend to understand that, but one of the things that's come out of the CNN thing is that there's a lot of requests to watch us play. But my rule has always been, if you want to play, but because I've always had people, can I watch? And it's like, no, because it's not really a spectator sport. People are casting spells and doing prayers to their gods, and they're in character, even though it seems strange to say. They're talking like their characters. They're answering to their characters. And so it seems weird, but it's a very natural thing to do when you sit at the table. But it's not really a spectator thing that I'd ever want to put anybody through. So one of the big changes is that you'll see a lot of people watching other people play, but that's not something that I do.
So it's just been unbelievably interesting to talk to you. It's so funny because I really had very little understanding of this, but I love what you just said, because I think you're playing it sounds like you playing it for the genuine love of the world that you've created, and it really isn't about show off. It's really something that can be a kind of just your own personal. Because I was thinking last night, where's a place that I can go to just relax, or let my mind go into another. I definitely feel the need for that, and I love to read books. So for me, it's just like I'll just jump into a book. When you're saying when people leave, it would be the last when a good book is over and it's over. I kind of always feel really sad when it's over. If somebody leaves the game or dies. But anyway, it was so wonderful to meet, and what you're doing.
Thank you, Robert.
You're probably doing incredible things for all the people that have joined your story.
I hope so. I would like to think, I would like to see it that way. When you play something for so long and you put so many hours into it, as I say, there's so many psychological things that are happening around that table when people are sitting for 4 or 5 hours and engaging. So yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.